We're going to now move to Katelyn Bowden and Jamie Duxbury. What we need here to do is we're doubling up because there's a couple of sessions here back to back that we want to get in as many people as we can. It just seemed that this time was a very popular time. So, good morning to you, Katelyn, and good morning to you, Jamie.
Good morning.
And do we have Katelyn online? We see her, but we don't hear her yet.
Uh,
Perfect.
can
Okay.
you, can you hear me now?
We
We
certainly
can.
can. Wonderful. Katelyn, thank you so much. And Jamie, thank you so much. I know we're doubling up a little bit, but let's start with you, Katelyn. The Badass Army has come out of nowhere and has been a huge impact. Again, hailing from uh, Ohio, which seems to be a hotbed of cybersecurity these days. Tell us a little bit about that project.
Well, it started a couple years ago. I found myself a victim of my images being shared online, and I discovered that there weren't really that many resources for this sort of thing. And I started reaching out to other victims just in the hopes that we could, combine forces and maybe just get something done. And I don't know exactly what we've done that has worked, but it has been working.
Well, I
Um,
think I think you're underselling it completely because am I to understand that there are now some state laws either enacted or in consideration to deal with the issue of revenge porn?
we have gotten a couple state laws passed.
Fantastic.
Ohio has one now, thanks to us. A badass did a lot of work out in Montana getting that law into place. And we are working on a federal law that would help bridge the gaps between the state laws and pick up where they are, leaving victims.
That's fantastic, and I wish you all the luck and effort on that. On that, I guess the question is you've taken a very in your face, controversial, some would say, approach to dealing with this issue. Was there a reason for that aggression? Because it seems like the soft sell was not working.
Um, no, it was just me being me. I don't really know how to do anything except um,
Awesome.
be myself. And frankly, I was really pissed off. I mean,
Yeah.
I think most of us in that situation would be. So I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive about it because I was sick of everybody just letting it be swept under the rug.
Right. Right. And it's such a huge invasion, and you're not really, are you? And see, I don't know about this because I just sort of see the Badass Army and see what they're doing. Are you new to information security? Have you been in the industry for a while, or what is sort of the person behind the
Um, I was a bartender.
okay.
I am brand new to information security. I'm not a highly technical person. What I am good at is community organizing. Um,
Apparently.
and I know enough to get by on the tech, but I can't code a line. I am
Me
so
neither.
impressed with anybody that can. Um, but what I deal with mostly is going to be end user security and making sure that everyday users, people who, don't know their EXIF from their VPN,
Right.
that they are staying secure and making sure that their privacy is protected, as well as letting them know what their rights are as far as
Mhm.
their privacy.
Yeah. Well, I kind of want to draw Jamie into the conversation a little bit here, just so that, it's not totally one-sided. Jamie,
Absolutely.
you're sitting there, you're listening to this strong advocacy, someone new in information security. Now, you've been in information security for a while. Um,
Forever.
Forever. What are some of your thoughts of dealing with this problem and getting the end users to pay attention to the consequences and issues?
It's we live in the modern world where the internet doesn't forget easily. The Our days of innocence and the blissful days where we could post things, say things, do things, and people would forget our embarrassment. Those days are long gone. the entire arena of sharing images or sharing intimate things and then having that published elsewhere or shared elsewhere, it's the extreme edge, isn't it? It's a toxic world, and it's also it unfortunately then requires Katelyn and people to then turn the tables on those people, those I say those misendemers or those innocent people finding out the hard way that the internet's got a long memory. The education piece for myself is just as important as kind of trying to fix the problem after it's out in public. People need to understand that sharing an innocent or a kind of risque picture between your most confided ally or your partner can have long consequences. If your phone's compromised, if your pictures are compromised, it's the shocking reality that people have lost the innocence of sharing intimate images or intimate things with their loved partners. It's a scary new world we live in, but unfortunately, Katelyn, you're filling a gap that it's sad, but we need to have that people out there empowering people to fight back in order to claw back those images and to provide some support and help, because there isn't anything else. It's you filled a void that unfortunately is sadly needed. It's endemic of the time that we live in. So good for you. Well done.
I agree so much with that, and I think Katelyn, maybe can you tell us a story of a recent success where a perpetrator of revenge porn was brought to justice? Caitlin, I hope you're there.
Oh, there we go. I
No,
got muted
okay,
somehow. Sorry about that.
not a problem.
Um, we've had a lot of really great successes with our civil lawsuits where they're suing for money. Sadly, our criminal lawsuits have not gone over extremely well. There's a
Okay,
lot of issues with the laws. We have to prove intent, which makes them really hard to prosecute.
right.
Um, we have had a case that we've been working on for about 2 years that is a good friend of mine whose pictures have been out there for about 10 years now.
Wow,
Um, and we have been working to catch this guy. He's been sharing underage images of teens.
wow.
Um, and we had to teach the police how to use Discord. We had to really walk them through every step of evidence collection. And he was arrested, and he was actually being charged with a lot of counts of sharing child pornography. And it's interesting the way that we handled it differently than how the police normally do. We actually were there for the when they did discovery and went through his devices, and we identified all the victims, and then we contacted them rather than having the police do it. And
Interesting.
as a result, he's we have more victims coming forward in this case than there has been in a really, really long time.
That's kind of
Um,
hacking the system in a lot of ways.
mhm. I mean,
That's
it's all
great.
about the approach. It's going to go
Yeah.
over a lot easier when it's somebody that understands what you're going through, contacting you and saying, hey, we have an opportunity to give you some justice, rather than having a uniformed officer show up at their house.
Right, right. Tell me a little bit about the civil action, because that might be something that a lot of our UK listeners would be unfamiliar with.
Okay, the civil action is normally it would take a victim hiring a lawyer and, obviously suing them for defamation, for, if there is a civil tort written into their state law.
Right,
Um, and we have had some luck with that. What we do is we work with lawyers that will work, do pro bono cases or on contingency, meaning they just get a portion of the winnings in the event the case goes well. And we've had a lot of success with that. I don't want to name dollar amounts,
of
but
course not. Yeah,
sometimes you do want to punish them by hitting their pockets, and that goes
financially.
all
Yeah,
to the victim. And the lawyer takes a percentage, but we try to cover their costs whenever possible.
that's great. So, Jamie, in your security career, have you been involved in investigations? and digital work?
Unfortunately, quite a lot of my career was spent working with tier one ISPs.
Okay.
It's in the obviously the formative early days of the internet. Unfortunately, high-speed internet connections tended to gravitate or would hook in the more less savory type. So unfortunately, my career, I've been involved in at least three separate investigations with work colleagues, um, basically essentially for child porn and for hosting, not for actually creating images, but for hosting and acquiring. Um, and it's, as I say, as now as a parent, it's the most invasive and scary thing to have, literally somebody that you work with, not necessarily closely, to be disappeared by the police and then go through the entire investigative piece. Back
Yeah.
to something Katelyn was saying, which is scary, is the fact that police are not necessarily keeping up with the entire volume of media that's being produced. So, a typical house will have no longer gigabytes of data. We're dealing with terabytes and terabytes of data. A lot of it's encrypted, and the police are not necessarily keeping up with being able to actually filter through and actually that they can acquire the images and acquire full data set images, but they're not necessarily processing those images or breaking the encryption. So that the weight of data being captured in any investigation is increasing tenfold and beyond. And I don't think the technology is yet keeping up from the law enforcement side in order to help assist them to actually bring people to justice in a timely fashion. So, Katelyn, again, some of the work that you're doing to actually assist the law enforcement in the US is fantastic. It's training them and actually improving their capability in order to help more people and actually to bring more people to charge.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're doing our best. Over in the UK, you guys have a lot more resources than we do. There's the Revenge Porn Hotline. I know there's a lot of legal representatives. There's an entire legal group dedicated to fighting this sort of thing at Revenge Porn Lawyers. There's a lot of other groups and orgs like mine doing great work. We just happen to focus more on the tech side
Yeah.
Gotcha.
and victim advocacy. A lot of the other orgs mostly just focus on the legal.
So, and I want to get back to that. What sort of advice do you have for young ladies and young men that may want to share intimate pictures? I mean, there was that controversial statement. I think it was Nancy Pelosi, maybe, that said that, you just shouldn't share it, or maybe it was on The View. I can't remember. But that's not a reality in the way the youth are communicating today, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's not just the youth, it's everybody's relying more and more on technology to foster their relationships. Um, and what we recommend is one, you want to make sure that you're sending it to somebody that you trust.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
if somebody's pressuring you to do something and you're not comfortable with it, they don't deserve your nudes. Basic agency and consent are really important things and something you want to take into account before you allow somebody that kind of vulnerability.
Yeah.
The other thing we do recommend is watermarking your images with the name of the recipient. That way,
Right.
if they are leaked, it one, you know who did it, and two, it also puts the onus and responsibility on them to make sure that it stays secure.
Good point.
Um, and also, you want to keep your pictures out of your camera roll. You want to keep them in a private other area, because if somebody gets a hold of your phone, the first thing they're going to look for, if they're that kind of person, is your camera roll. So
Yeah.
using an app that I personally use, KeepSafe,
Okay.
um, but there are several other apps that you can use that can safely and securely store images.
And
And
remote wipe. That
yes,
could be a good one as well.
that is very important. Basic cybersecurity measures that we recommend for all users need to be put into place. Secure passwords, using password managers, two-factor authentication. These are all things that we don't think twice about using, but the end user, as somebody's grandma, not that they might have nudes, but you know what
Yeah.
I mean. Somebody's grandma, or just the typical high school girl using TikTok and things like that. They might not think of these things. And it's my job to remind them of the consequences if they don't.
Jamie, that's interesting, that Caitlin is really personalizing the issue for users. Do you think maybe we're not doing that enough in our sort of annual security awareness training, that we're not really talking about that threat model, are we?
I think again it goes back to security awareness, and it's more of a holistic approach. So I think it's all part of the a rich tapestry. So in itself, sharing images, it shouldn't necessarily be a key, a cornerstone of anything. But for younger people, it's really key. As part of a security policy or security framework, it's less important. I think a corporate policy doesn't need to care about showing intimate images. However, people need a general awareness of what can happen. And going back to the technology and watermarking, I think it's a great idea, but I don't know of any applications that will watermark it. And again, I'm an old grumpy person, so nobody wants to see new pictures of me, and I can't imagine the pressure to be placed on a third party in order to send risque or nude pictures. It goes back to Pandora's box. When those pictures are out, they're out. It's very difficult to maintain or manage them after the event. And people, it's the awareness piece to understand if you do something on the internet, if you say something on the internet, it's very difficult to retrieve it or to turn it around or to get rid of that evidential trail. If I post a picture of me, nobody wants to see that, but it's out there, it's going to be there, it's captured, it's cached. So understanding the repercussions of whether that's in a corporate workplace, sending an internal document over untrusted email to a third party, or sending a picture that you wouldn't necessarily want your neighbours or your mother or your friends to see of you. It's having that awareness of the repercussions and what can happen.
Yeah, I think
But I
it's.
think that's more of a
Go ahead.
societal issue, in all
Yeah,
Yeah,
honesty, less
it,
than it is, just don't take the pictures.
but
right.
it's also the modern gratification. People expect, you can, with 2 clicks you can go to a hardcore porn site. So people just expect that instant gratification. If I'm in a long, I've been married for 20 plus years. We're quite happy not to see pictures of each other. It's the instant gratification. And risque pictures, a smiling picture of a friend's face is much nicer than a full frontal nude shot. There's a time and a place, and people need to remember, nobody wants to see me naked for fuck's sake, but a risque picture is a risque picture. It's they're different, they're different
Well,
things.
the beer farmers beg to differ. I think our new policy is going to be is your sensitive parts are sensitive data.
Yes.
So, thank you, Caitlin, so much. Do you have anything to add just as we wrap up your segment here?
Um, no, I think we're good to go.
Oh,
I
thank.
appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh, it was great. I mean, you're just a force to be reckoned with, and we're so proud and so supportive of the work that you're doing out there. And Jamie, thank you so much for bringing in your perspective as the curmudgeon and elder statesman. I truly appreciate it. Anything else you
My
want to add?
No, my pleasure. I'm really pleased it's an odd introduction to Caitlin. I really appreciate kind of, getting to know you. And Ian, I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Caitlin, as and when, I'd love to have the opportunity to say hello to you in the flesh too. So thank you very much for the opportunity. Enjoy the rest of BeerCon 1.
Thank you so much.
Mhm. Thank you.